Go from a fan of the show to star of the show. Send us your opinions now, and they could be discussed live on today's show. Welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show.
Good morning, Canada. It's me, the champ. Welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show. Hi, Darren. You're giggling already. You ready to have fun?
I am.
Over the next couple of hours, we're going to do our best to entertain you, inform you, distract you on episode 206 of Canada's morning sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show, coming to you from the bunker. And boy, we got a lot to get to today. Sizzling. People watching on Facebook Live already commenting in with their thoughts. I got a doozy of a poll question, which quite frankly, I'm shocked that we have not had yet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to that in a second. Some big-name hockey guests today. Those include Pittsburgh Penguins assistant coach Mark Recchi, five-time Stanley Cup champion. Mark Recchi is going to be joining us from Pittsburgh. Ken Reed of Rogers Sportsnet, author of many books, friend of the program. Ken Reed's going to join us from Toronto. And really, one of the biggest names in hockey, I'm going to tell you, over the past couple of weeks, Connor Bedard. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's going to have to for Phil Andrews, the voice of the Regina Pats, very soon. Connor Bedard will be joining us, the player with exceptional player status, the first in Western Canadian history, following potentially in the skate steps of Connor McDavid and John Tavares. They're all coming up on the program today. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. It's going to be a good show.
It is cold as hell out there.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
I know. At least it's sunny and there's a little snow on the ground. I was commenting as we left yesterday, it was starting to get cold. I'm like, it's the worst when there's no snow, so it's not pretty, and it's not sunny, and it's cold, and it looks bad, and it's just miserable.
Yep.
At least it's sunny today, but yeah, I thought we were done. With
bad weather?
With the cold.
For our American friends, we're going to be using Celsius terms here. Minus 26 with the wind chill today. I have to think that's got to be close to a record. Can somebody check on that? We got so many people around here, researchers. That's got to be a record.
Close.
This is damn cold. But anyways, we're heating it up in here, and we're here to have fun with you. I mentioned that poll question. I'm going to save that to the end. The Elite Eight show topics today, quite frankly, I think are just going to be fantastic. One, how would things change in a 9-game CFL schedule? Hold on. That's where we're going to start. Point two, could you envision a quarterback controversy with the Saskatchewan Roughriders this year? Cody Fajardo and James Franklin? I could see it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Point three, which led to our poll question today. Should the Canadian Football League merge with the XFL? You can vote now. You don't got to wait till we get into the discussion. For Capital Auto Mall Universal Collision Center, should the CFL merge with the XFL? Let me just say this. In 2001, I suggested that. Face the firing squad. And that was before the time of Facebook and Twitter and all the rest. I just got eviscerated for it. Well, CFL wasn't in great shape then. I'm not sure what kind of shape they're in now. Amid the pandemic, maybe now's the time. So we'll investigate that on the program today. Point four, with the Memorial Cup being canceled, did it save the Kelowna Rockets the embarrassment of maybe being the worst host team ever? You're hearing that from some hockey people. We can maybe ask Mark Recchi about that because of his Kamloops Blazers ties.
Yes.
Point five. What are the expectations of Connor Bedard? What are the expectations? Before we get the kid on the air, who some think is going to be the savior of the Regina Pats franchise, what are your What are yours? What are mine? What are the hockey fans' expectations of Connor Bedard? Point six. Wes Welker was on WEEI radio in Boston, which must be the greatest sports talk station in the world because they get all the big scoops and all the salacious things are said on WEEI Boston. Wes Welker said that Bill Belichick treats every player the same in the locker room, and that included Tom Brady, and that he would talk down Tom Brady in front of the rest of the locker room, and it would make Tom mad, but Tom's the kind of guy that he would just put up with it, but eventually he got tired of it. Point being, is it fair to treat every player the same way vis-a-vis every employee? Frankly, I think we could spend 2 hours on that. Maybe we'll go long today. Point seven, what players are you following on social media? Because I was walking around, particularly at this time in the pandemic, what players are you following on social media? Because I was walking around showing the guys in the bunker Jeff Shattler's very colorful TikTok videos Jeff Shatler, who's sat in that chair in the days gone by from the Saskatchewan Rush, dancing hip-hop with his wife, dance moves. There's one where he's wearing her dress. Not judging. Very entertaining. So there's that. And then Duron Carter came out today on Twitter and said, listen, y'all are worried about your jobs and looking over your back and not knowing if you have a job on a day-to-day basis. Guess what? That's the life of a football player. Always has been. And that's from Duron. And, of course, just the, predictable ensuing onslaught of hate at Duron for pointing out what's actually the truth that nobody wants to hear or acknowledge. And point 8, is it fair to expect players to leave their families if this bubble city, quarantine city idea does come to fruition? Because although we as fans would love it, some even would want to leave for 3 months and finish out a hockey season. But is it fair to those that don't want to leave their families and say, I shouldn't have to do this to go to work? Now, I know a lot of guys in the military. We moved our helmet over here. These guys go for 6 months and women at a time and don't bitch and say a word. How bad do you want the job?
A lot of CFL players do that too. They come up here for 8-9 months, right?
Yeah.
Leave their families down in the States. So it's not unprecedented.
I'm actually glad to hear you bring up the CFL players, by the way. Morning, Paul. Good to see you. Good morning. Paul, I didn't get the memo. I should have been wearing a ball cap today and growing facial hair. Everybody around here looks the same but us.
Yeah.
Everybody looks the same. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. He's gone. Paul came to deliver coffee.
It's the only way to tell the talent apart from
Everybody looks the same. It's a brigade. They all look like Al Borland from Tim's Tool Time. What? It's a compliment. Thought you were leaving. Clark says, I'll take it. Remember Al Borland?
I do.
Where was I? Oh, I posted an article to my
care of Tool Time.
Posted a column to our website, rodpeterson.com, this morning about how the pandemic is affecting pro hockey players and minor pro hockey players. And frankly, those guys don't make a lot of money at the best of times. The article went on to say, interviewed some guys from the East Coast Hockey League, I think Southern Pro Hockey League, and the American Hockey League, and they said, listen, it's one thing to pick up a laboring job in the summertime. We all know those guys. Maybe you work on a farm in the summertime as a pro hockey player or construction or something. Well, now they canceled the season. They're not getting their playoff bonuses. They're not kids, i.e. getting taken care of by their parents for the university and junior players. These are pros.
Yeah.
And this might end their career because of that. Maybe it's time to just give up the dream and get into real life. And that would be very sad. So you brought up the CFL players doing that. This is going to end some careers. There's going to be some players that just can't wait this out.
Can't wait it out. Need that structure of the team and everything else in order to, stay sharp, right? You know, guys that are going to be home. What are we talking about in our pre-show meeting? 12 hours of Call of Duty? Is that what it was? In a day? But there's going to be guys who are going to do that and kind of forget about or just not put in the time just because you're dealing with family stuff, you're dealing with whatever, and then all of a sudden you don't have a job to come back to, right? So it's gonna hurt some players for sure.
So we enjoy the audience participation from our viewers. So through those Elite 8 show topics, Blake Brown is watching from Kindersley. He says, you're getting millions. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. You got to leave your family for 3 months to go play a sport. You got to do it. I would tend to go with that line of thinking. I would. And to be honest, this was a debate that was on ESPN this morning. They said, listen, you have the choice of not going if you don't want to, but you're going to have to stay home and not get paid. That's the way that it is. And because I've spent more and more time around the military and I see these guys and gals leaving on 6-month tours of duty or deployments, I guess, be the way that the term that they use, and they don't think anything of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I heard a lieutenant colonel speaking at one event that I was at saying he missed his entire season of this amateur sport. They're not getting millions, by the way. They're going to protect us.
They've signed up for that, and they've signed up to have lives, not normal lives, right?
Right. So maybe that could have been a good poll question, but I kind of like the XFL CFL merger thing. So to go back to the start here, and this is the rollout, by the way, for Flooring Superstore, and I have already announced the Rod Pedersen Show stimulus package, and that is getting flooring for the entire second floor of our home from Flooring Superstore from the Dickens, because we love them like the Dickens over there at Flooring Superstore. So when I say how would things change in a 9-game CFL regular season, we're spitballing here. I hate playing the what-if game, but in the terms of sports talk radio, They do it all the time in sports talk. So think about this for a second. Say they cut the season to 9 games.
Okay.
So kicking off at Labor Day, what it would actually be like would be like the first 9 games of your 18-game schedule.
Yeah.
Last year in the CFL, this is how it would have changed. In the Eastern Division, nothing would have changed because the Hamilton Tiger Cats posted a wire-to-wire run.
Right.
On their way to winning, was it 15 games, I believe, franchise record. They would have hosted the Eastern Final. Nothing would change there. Montreal would have finished second because they were middling around the first half of the season, and Toronto and Ottawa were out of it. Yeah. In the West, no, I didn't go back and crunch all the numbers. This is what I remember, but I believe this to be true. And our viewers and listeners in Winnipeg, correct me if I'm wrong, or any of these other CFL centers, but Winnipeg would have hosted the West Final because they were in first place.
Yeah.
Long past Labor Day, if you recall.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the first 9.
Yep.
This would be comparable, right?
They came out of the gates hot, right?
Right.
Riders did not.
No, they didn't.
They did not come out of the gate very hot, but they got things rolling to be a playoff team. Edmonton was pretty good early.
Yes, they were.
They were good. BC wasn't.
They certainly wouldn't have been crossing over by the end. I mean, if you just go back and say, how would things have changed in a 9-game CFL for this year? Based on last year, BC had been out of it, and that didn't change. They missed the playoffs as it was. Winnipeg would have been first. Edmonton would have been second and hosted the Western semifinal. Riders would have been third. Calgary would have been fourth.
Yeah, would have been a battle with Calgary, Saskatchewan for that final playoff spot. Oh.
So things change.
Yes. It becomes a lot more unpredictable, too. And every game means so much more. Wow. And it goes back to Rob Vanstone's point yesterday about the teams with the continuity that can come out of the gate the fastest. You look at Saskatchewan with, the quarterbacking stuff that happened early and new coaching staff, things like that. It took them some time to get going. But once they did, man, were they good. And hopefully they can have that continuity early. But you think about those teams, BC might have some trouble. Ottawa, who we talked about yesterday. That's very, very interesting.
Isn't it?
It is.
So when I went to bed last night, I try not to think about the next day's show or I'll be up for hours. I'll never get to sleep. But last night I thought, this would be a cool thing to talk about. I want to check in with some of our friends that are watching today because we do love the interactive nature of the Rod Pedersen Show. Todd Holt is watching, whom I believe is still the Swift Current Broncos all-time leading scorer and former San Jose Shark. Good morning, Holty. He writes in, good morning, Rod, listening out here in Cochrane. Appreciate it, my friend. Mike Lee, the oil man from Mydale, writes in. He says, good morning. I have a very nice view from my den. Pristine white snow, very sunny. Bet you'd rather be in Honolulu, Mike. But he's taking the positive road. That's Mike.
Yep.
I'll skip over the quarterback controversy thing in Saskatchewan. That was my point, too. Could you envision a quarterback controversy? I think that anybody could. There's 2 great quarterbacks. And if at some time they falter, of course, in a compressed season, you would think the starter would get more of a leash. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you?
You would think so.
So this is what got people talking the most is our poll question. Should the CFL merge with the XFL? Look, I should have had people write in with their reasons why or why not, because right now on Twitter, it is an avalanche of no. 90% say no, the CFL should not merge with the XFL. 5% say yes, 5% say not sure, and there's been hundreds of votes cast already. Listen, hear me out. The CFL has been hand to mouth for as long as we can remember, and you're seeing reports now. 3 Down Nation specifically had a comment from John Bowman that this could finish off the CFL. 1 season missed could finish them off entirely. I don't know the numbers. I don't want to talk like that because I'm not in charge of business of the Canadian Football League. But if it's that dire, and you're looking at the XFL that, although they didn't complete their 2020 season, they completed 5 of 8 weeks, and they're already said they're coming back next year. You got 8 teams down there. You got 8 teams up here. You got the financial stability of Vince McMahon and the WWE. Although it is operating from a separate company from the WWE, you still got pretty much unlimited resources. You have, let me say it again, stability, which the CFL does not have at the moment. And you've got television contracts with ESPN, NFL, Fox Sports 1, ESPN, NBC, Fox Sports 1, Why wouldn't you want to do it? I think the only reason you wouldn't want to merge the CFL with the XFL is simply ego. And there's been many books written along the theme of ego is your enemy.
Yeah.
Ego has brought down many a good man.
It's true.
I think it needs to be investigated.
Well, and I commented, and when I retweeted it, I said, not yet. It's not time yet. But if there's a situation where the league's considering folding or you're at that spot, absolutely. You do what you can to stay alive. I think people are when you get 98% of people saying no or 95% or whatever it is, it's people don't want to lose the history and they don't want to lose the tradition of the Canadian Football League.
Why? Who it says you would have to?
Well, and that's, I think, how they're taking it is maybe, well, we got to become the XFL now. They should maybe come to us. Well, it's not what it's about. It's about bringing them together and coming up with a solution. What rules you play, all that kind of stuff, expanding, having that, U.S. footprint, which is, a nice one right now with the XFL, what they're doing in St. Louis, what they're doing in Seattle and a couple of the other markets. It would absolutely be worth exploring if it came to that, for sure. All options should be on the table, but I think that's the biggest fear, is losing that tradition of the Grey Cup and the CFL. You definitely don't want to do that.
How is it any different than 93, 94, 95 and the U.S. expansion experiment of the CFL back then? We still had a Grey Cup. We still played Canadian rules. We had a North and a South division. Not much has to change.
Would Vince be on board with that? Would he be on board with
I don't know why he wouldn't be.
Okay, we'll play Canadian rules. We'll join the CFL. Or would he say, no, the XFL is the new brand in town. It's the hot ticket. You come to us and we'll call it the XFL. And we play for our championship trophy. That would be interesting to see how the negotiations would come down.
Again, we don't know where the CFL sits amid the coronavirus, but it doesn't look good. And if I had a vote, it would be yes. I was saying it way back in 2001. I'm as big a CFL fan as anybody. Believe me, everything that I have, I pretty much owe to the Canadian Football League. But I also think it's worth exploring, not a flat out no, if it benefits the long-term survival of the Canadian Football League. Because if you haven't noticed, they got a few problems right now. I'm going to read some of the comments from Trent, checking in from Norway today. Good day, Trent. Norway calling. How are your hands holding up from the hand washing? Are they red like the nose of Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer? Or are they okay? Let the CFL and XFL stay on their own. Make sure the Atlantic Schooners get into the CFL once all gets back to normal. Stay safe, everyone. That's Trent's take on the thing. Can you put the comment up from Pat in Winnipeg, if you don't mind? She's one of our biggest fans in Winnipeg. Wayne. Oh, now they're coming in so fast I can't catch up to all of them here. From J.R. Rowley, Vince is a frigging crook in my mind. Look at his record in business. I know it's pretty good, isn't it?
I thought so.
I think he's done very well.
He's doing okay.
Pat in Winnipeg writes in, she says, good morning from snowy Winnipeg. As sad as it is to see 2 inches of snow in my yard, your poll question made my head explode. We are Canadian through and through, and my answer to your poll question is a resounding no, egos notwithstanding. You all have to understand, put the gun down. This is just a suggestion here. But back in the 90s, Pat, I think you're around to remember the U.S. teams. They were drawing very well. The Baltimore Stallions were the second highest drawing team behind the Edmonton Eskimos in the entire Canadian Football League.
Wow.
So let's just talk about it a little bit here before heads start exploding. It's still the Canadian Football League. It's still Canadian rules. It's still the Grey Cup. Nothing changes other than bringing in their 8 teams. Now, I haven't talked to Vince McMahon about it. And by the way, they're not in trouble. They're fine. But most business people are bigger, greater. Let's expand. Let's be all over the continent. Would work for both sides.
I like it. Almost like you had way back when the NFC, AFC, or AFL, NFL merged in the United States.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome. Turned into the NFL that we know and love today. I mean, it could turn into the CFL being the mega giant. I think if Randy Ambrosie is really serious about global expansion in the CFL 2.0, I mean, this blows that out of the water. This becomes now CFL 3.0. You start there, and then all of a sudden, it's easier to grow in Mexico and Japan and Sweden and Norway and all over the world. Imagine that brand.
I think y'all should think about it a little more before heads are exploding and accusing me of being sick.
But we're coming at this from a point where it's still the CFL. It's still the traditions of the CFL.
Sure, nothing changes.
It's like U.S. expansion 2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it behind that.
Mark Recchi coming up today. Ken Reed and Connor Bedard. This has been the Rollout for Flooring Superstore, and we will explore these themes throughout the next 2 hours. It's the Rod Pedersen Show on Facebook Live, coming this spring to Game Plus TV Network, and listen live at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen on demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.